Welcome to Badass Breakthrough. My name is Bridget Bennett. I am your host. I am a high conflict custody and divorce coach, fellow survivor of domestic abuse, and I am here to help you on your way. This show is for those who have found their way navigating co-parenting with a high conflict or narcissistic person, battling it out in family court, feeling like that journey is never going to end, maybe discovering that they are a product of a narcissistic family, and overall for those that are trying to rebuild their life after enduring abuse, whether it was through a relationship or marriage. You're in the right place. This show is for you. So let's get started on this journey together. Welcome back to Badass Breakthrough. I am your host, Bridget Bennett, and today I have the honor of being with an amazing author who wrote this incredible book that reminded me so much of my own childhood and my own experience. We have with us today Shannon Brown. Shannon, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I cannot say enough. I know we were chatting before we started recording of how much I enjoyed your book because of Jane. For me, going back and part of my show, I've talked about my own journey and, recognizing the childhood trauma that I lived through, which later put me into not so healthy relationships as an adult.
Mhm.
And, I really want today's episode to help our listeners connect to not only you, but the story, and maybe be able to, connect the dots and be like, oh, light bulb went off. I think I've experienced something like this too.
Mhm.
So, most of our listeners are all survivors of, domestic abuse, childhood abuse, and trauma. And so many of us, I think, have had this moment where we haven't felt safe in our own lives. How can someone tell ultimately the difference between survival and like actually living, right? So when you get out
Mhm.
of this state of fight or flight and you feel like you're safe again, what would you say about what it feels like to live?
Oh, well, survival mode to me, it's sort of like you're always scanning. You're like just trying to get through the moment rather than being able to sit back and feel it and enjoy it. And I feel like that's really where the distinction is because survival mode is scanning and anticipating and always expecting something to go wrong. And when you're finally able to kind of sit back and be like, okay, I'm all right, like it's very freeing. It's very freeing.
Yes. I notice on your shirt it says unapologetically. And
Oh, yep.
I
Unapologetically healing.
oh my God, I love it. I love it so much. And one of my favorite words is I am unapologetically myself. I am
Hmm.
authentically me. And I'm learning to unbecome. This was a word that was shared with me by a friend. Unbecome all the things that I thought I was supposed to be long ago.
Yep.
I know in your book, you talk about survival behaviors being,
Yes.
misunderstood. What is
Hmm.
one behavior that survivors often feel shamed for that is actually a sign of their overall intelligence or their ability to protect themselves?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would probably say hyper awareness is would be one definitely because it can kind of take on a different view or like it shows differently in every survivor and it can kind of portray as anxiety or it can be overreacting or it can just be hypervigilance and like you'll see in my story um I would disassociate. I would go into other places in my imagination and to people looking they would be like, "Oh, she's just like this quiet little girl." And no, I was actually going to places where I felt safe in me, and I felt like that's one way that it was kind of a hidden abuse because
Yeah.
other people couldn't really see it in me, but it was there. So
Yes, yes. As I was reading your book, and it is beautifully written, and it's an
thank
easy
you.
read, right? For so many of us, I think it's, being able to read these stories that helps us all feel connected, and
Hmm.
that our stories are so much intertwined without us even knowing each other, right? So a
Yep.
stranger can completely feel connected to you as the author of this book.
Hmm.
And as a child, I remember like dissociating often, and I didn't know what it was
Yep.
that I was doing,
Yep.
right? And I would have a long list of chores from my stepmother, and she would like leave us at home alone. And by the time she got home, it was expected that these things were done. If not, there would be severe consequences, right?
Hmm.
And for many people, they're like, oh, well, that's just normal. That's just, being raised by someone else
Yep.
and you're being taught responsibility. But what they didn't understand was the consequences that would come in afterwards.
Hmm.
And I remember playing like this game for myself of like, all right, I'm going to beat my own time. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to
Oh
beat
yeah.
myself. I'm going to get all these chores done. And I often fantasized about a future life. And
Oh, that's
I don't
beautiful.
think I've ever shared this with anyone, but I fantasized about like strangely being married and having a bunch of children. And I was just trying to like get the house clean and get everything in line to further than, I guess, please a man. But that was
Hmm.
my fantasy. That was my ability to survive. Was I had to create this story in my head of like I was doing good and it was for a reason.
Hmm.
What can you say about something similar without telling us the story? Because I want our
Yeah.
listeners to, want to read it. But what can you say about a moment that you recognize that you were dissociating if you were to look back?
Well, one moment was I was hearing things happening between my parents, and I I will just give this. I am a Disney fanatic.
Ah,
So,
yes. Who's
so
not, right?
so I would go into fairy tales. Fairy tales are an escape for me. I would create my own. I would literally just live them in my room, and
Mm.
it helped me. And singing and ah.
Oh, were you I was the little girl that I remember. I have a really distinct memory that I went through it and in EMDR therapy actually, and it came back to me that I was like standing on the railing of a fence and I was looking out, and I was in Colorado at the time as a child, and I was looking out and I would see the grass just kind of blow in the wind, and I remember
Mhm.
I made up a song that
Oh.
particular day, and I just started singing it. Now, the words of the song I cannot tell you to save the life of me, but um, I remember very distinctly that moment. Um, and for me, it brings me joy versus bringing me
Mhm.
sadness, because there was this little person that didn't know what she was doing and was, helpless.
Mhm.
But actually, I was helping myself in ways that I didn't need to. I shouldn't have never had to do that, right? But
Yeah,
I
no,
helped myself survive.
it's amazing what children can do and what the brain does to protect you.
It does. It does. Now, your ability to tell this story was surprising to me because for me, I don't remember much of my childhood. There's a lot of blanks. I'll remember something and then I forget the rest of it.
Mhm.
Is that something that you also experience?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I started doing the same thing. Like your mind kind of learns to protect itself and kind of compartmentalize those memories to kind of
Mm,
not remember. But they all started they all started coming back all at once when I was in college actually, and I had entered into a relationship where there was significant domestic violence and things that were very similar to what happened with the person who abused me when I was younger.
mm.
And all of a sudden, my body reacted and all of the memories came flooding back at once. And I was like, whoa, whoa.
Oh my God. Wow.
So I
Wow.
So I had to start therapy in college. And well, again, I've kind of
Yeah.
been on and off through in therapy my whole life.
Right. Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Now, you have a very interesting perspective of how you tell
yes,
the story, and it is told by someone that's not this little girl.
no.
So
So
tell us about who is the storyteller of this story? Who observed this story?
the story was observed by my childhood doll named Jane. And she was given to me by someone who was one of my number one protectors as a child. And I got her for Christmas one year, and she went with me through everything. I had her all the way. I still have her. I still have her.
You still have her. Did
I
you
do.
bring her with you
I
today?
did.
Oh my gosh.
I actually have the whole night council if you would like to meet them.
Yes, please. I would love that.
So, first, our main character, this is Jane.
Oh, wow.
So, in the book she is a rag doll, but she is
Yes.
actually porcelain.
She
But
and
you can
she's got the ginger hair, and I did picture ginger, and I was
ginger, yeah,
like trying to
the pink
wow.
the
And
pink
the pink
bonnet, the
bonnet.
frills.
Yes. Oh,
and
she's so
then
special.
and then this is Trisha.
The face. Oh.
and Roberta.
Look at Roberta.
She has been through many surgeries.
I can see this, but she's still hanging on. She's resilient, just like
She
you.
Yep.
Wow.
And they sat with me through the whole writing.
They did.
Yep.
That's beautiful. I think most of us, right, find something that gives us security and safety, whether maybe as a child it was a blanket or a
Mhm.
doll. I had a Minnie Mouse, a stuffed Minnie Mouse, and it was
Yay.
my favorite. Yes, and I had like little pajamas for Minnie Mouse I would put from my baby dolls, and I'd put it on Minnie Mouse, and I remember that. I think for me, reading your story and seeing the characters as they're telling it, right? And they're experiencing your life.
Mhm.
It's while I couldn't help but think while I was reading of exercises that I was taught to go through in EMDR therapy, of looking at my life from an outsider's lens, as if I were
Mhm.
watching scenes of a movie pass me by,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And I didn't realize how healing that is.
It really is.
It is.
It
And
was I feel like I was finally able to close that chapter of my life in a
mm,
very meaningful way. That the story was so healing, and I hope that it can help other people and they can relate.
yes, me too. Me too. I think that for me, there's a common theme that I find with, whether it's clients, listeners that come to me about difficulties with their children, right? Or their children might disclose to them some form of abuse that they've endured from the other parent or another family member. At times, I have protective parents that they're kind of in disbelief. I've had a few that they're like, I just don't know. I don't see that happening. I couldn't picture that happening. What would you say is important to recognize if a child is to disclose an act of abuse or something that's alarming? What is something that's important to take out of that if a child shares this with you?
Well, if they are sharing something that is very significant like this to you, you really need to listen and take that seriously because it is a big deal for them to come and trust you with that. Not to mention, depending on the age, if they have knowledge beyond their age, that is a significant red flag.
Yes.
And you really need to take that seriously. Otherwise, they're going to learn that nobody is going to believe them. And what's the point of speaking up? Because it's not a big deal. I have to go through this alone, I guess. So
Right, right. And as survivors, we've all survived something in life, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's something in our childhood or a relationship that helped us recognize other unhealthy patterns that we've experienced. What is the likelihood, from your experience as now an adult child, what is the likelihood that you would say a child would be lying or making up a story like this to their parent? Because it's a narrative that is spun in family court. And often the abusive parent pulls out these words of alienation, or you're coaching the child, or that's not possible. I would have never done that. Or they flip it, right? They implement Darvo and it's instantly, you're the aggressor, you did this. What
Mhm.
would you say to those that are listening to us now? Is a child likely to make up this story?
No, they are not, because if a child actually comes out and says it, that's
Right,
huge in itself because a majority of children don't.
right, right.
And I will say I was one of them. Like, I didn't fully come out and tell my family everything until I was in my 30s.
Our stories are so similar in so many ways because it wasn't until my 30s that I recognized the things that had happened to me. And I ended up cutting off my whole family. And I had this great sense of shame as a little girl. And I felt a lot of guilt, right? Because there's a lot of confusion that I think is created in the mind of a child of, all right, this is somebody that I'm supposed to trust. And, you know, what they're doing, it does, it kind of feels icky, but at the same time, it kind of feels good at moments and it creates confusion in the brain. And then they want to reassure you that everything's okay and that we shouldn't tell anybody else, which I think really ingrains in a child
Yeah,
this need of, this is something wrong that you're doing. And I think that these perpetrators intentionally do it. It's a grooming tactic, it's
it is
coercive
grooming.
control. It is, right? And it's really hard to go back and recognize those moments when someone told us, you're okay, this should be safe. And that
This
feeling
is
of
normal.
guilt. Yes, this is normal. This is what, I'll never forget my dad when he would spank me. He would say, I'm doing this because I love you. And
Mhm.
I would be in tears and I would say, I hate you, leave me alone. And he would not let me leave. He would not let me leave him. And then he would like hug me, which again created a lot of confusion. Now, my father was a baby boomer, right? So different generation. And
Yeah.
some people will attribute that behavior to the generational, you know, age gap. However, what we know now is again, that in itself continues to create confusion in a child.
And that continues throughout life after that because they just doubt everything, self doubt. They question themselves.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
I mean, it still happens to me. I have to talk myself down from that. Like,
Really?
it's hard. I'm constantly questioning what I'm doing is correct. Like, I even questioned putting out because of Jane. Like, what is this going to do to my family? What is this going to do? Like, I'm going to be putting this out into the world and everybody is going to know me now. And
What kind of response have you gotten from those that know you about your book?
honestly, my mom was one of the first people to read it. I let her read it before I published it because I didn't want it to be a big shock because this is a lot of her story too, because she lived it and she had to get us out of that and we were kids. So, um, yeah, and yeah, she was like, it's one thing saying my own story, but hearing it from my daughter, it hits hard.
It does. It
and
does.
and just from other people in my life, my friends, they were like, we never suspected. Like, we feel awful. How did we not know this? And I'm like, I learned to put on that smile and be okay. And I honestly, my stories will continue. I will give that. I have another book coming out, and it's going to go into more of it became a safety issue because he would hurt people around me.
Oh my. Oh
So
my.
I just kept it a secret.
Yes. I I'm excited for the next book to come out. I will be like, please let me know as soon as it's out because
Oh, I
I cannot
definitely will.
wait. I cannot wait to read it. Um, a lot of survivors, and women in general, we get labeled as being too much, or we're reactive, we're a drama queen, we're dramatic, we're so sensitive, we're so emotional. What is actually happening in the body during those moments?
We're reacting to something that's triggered us from before.
Mhm.
It could be something very simple. Like for me, I was sitting in a restaurant once and someone tapped me and I went into a complete response. Like I went into an anxiety attack because I wasn't expecting it, and you don't handle unpredictable well. So when
No.
something happens out of the norm, it startles you, and you kind of learn to react because of what you learned back then and like what you went through. So a lot of the times you just don't even have control. It just
Mm.
it happens.
Yeah, yes, yes. And the beautiful thing about your story is that it doesn't focus solely on like the abuse itself, but
Mhm.
more of how one was coping, right?
Yep.
How one was surviving. And a lot of the theme of what I share and what others share is about you go from survival mode to thriving.
Yep.
And I feel that. I feel that through the story, right?
Mhm.
Of I feel hope. I feel sadness. Like I'm surprised that right now I'm not crying. I might, the more I talk about it. But it it's like a lot of endurance, right? Not only
Mhm.
resilience, but I would use the word endurance
That's a great
of
word.
the character, right? Like
Yep.
there's a lot that I don't think was fully understood,
Mhm.
but was trying to be understood.
Exactly. I wanted to get into the mind of a child, and that's basically where that book is you're seeing how this child creates things, and I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, I know.
But
I'm trying not to give away the details.
but yeah, no, it's putting yourself in that child's position, but also because of the lens and being told through Jane, it takes away the whole sensationalization. Like you don't, you're not going to experience like if you're looking for graphic abuse and stuff like that. That's not what this is.
No, it's
So
not re-traumatizing, right? Like
exactly,
it's not re-traumatizing to a survivor that
it's
might think, "Oh, I shouldn't read this book. I might be triggered." I didn't feel triggered.
honestly, I feel like this could go to someone as low as maybe 10 years old because it gives them things that they might recognize in themselves and be able to question.
I would agree. Like I said, it's a very easy read, and it's an enjoyable book. It's hard to put it down because you're wanting to get to the
That's
other
something I've
part of the story.
that's something I've heard. A lot of people have done it in one read.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, if carpool for me is, like, amazing because it allows me some downtime, and I'm like, "You know what? What a better thing to do than to pull out a book and read?" And this was
Exactly.
my book of choice through carpool while I was sitting
Oh,
there reading.
awesome.
Right, right. It worked, it worked. Um, how do you think that childhood coping mechanisms show up later in maybe parenting styles, relationships, or what I handle, right, is a lot of custody battles?
Well, it can definitely show up as being protective. Um, it it will make you kind of question a little bit more. You actually hopefully will teach your children a little bit younger, like what kind of touches feel good and what it's okay. Like you might be a little bit more educational with your children around that.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, there's so
I
much.
know. There's a thought that comes to mind of like the overprotective parent or the,
Yep.
protective parent is often for me the underprotected child. Would you agree with that?
hmm I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I find a lot of my listeners tend to, over explain, maybe
Oh, yes.
overthink, over prepare, right? Feeling that they need to like prove themselves and
hmm
like prove their reality to others. I think this is something that's very common for trauma
It,
survivors,
it really
especially,
is.
right? No matter if it was a relationship in your adulthood or through your life, right? Starting in your childhood. Have you found yourself in moments where you're like, shit, I'm over explaining or I'm overthinking or oh my God, here I am again?
Oh
Have
my
you?
gosh, all the time. And then there are people who are telling me, like, why are you telling me all this? And I'm like, I'm just used to it. It's who I am. I'm sorry. And then I apologize for it. And I'm just like, I shouldn't be apologizing for this either because it's something that helped me get through when I was younger. Because
Yes,
back
yes.
then, I did have to over explain everything in order to try and save myself from getting hurt.
Yes. Or for me, I was like very much in that. And I think I had to, little girl me had to make herself look like she was the good guy because I was always labeled the bad guy, right? I was a bad kid. I was a bad child. And
The
so,
disappointment.
right, right. And heaven forbid I not make A honor roll or A B honor roll because then I wouldn't get all the affection, right? Or the
Yep.
praise.
It was a
I
double
was,
it was a double-edged sword for me because I got
yeah.
that stuff and then it wasn't good enough. And then it was like,
Mm.
"Oh, well, aren't you the brown nose? Aren't you the smarty pants? You're just like your mother." And I'm
Oh,
like,
you were labeled the smart one.
"Yep."
Uh-huh, me too. Me too. My brothers were very athletic, and my dad had a wall where he had all of their trophies. He created like this bookshelf. He was a carpenter in his spare time, and he made this like bookcase and had all of my brother's athletic trophies. Well, I didn't play sports, right? I was into
Yeah, me either.
theater.
Me
Yeah, I
too.
was in I got all these awards, right? Academic awards, accolades, you name it. And all of that was on the wall. So he had these picture frames where he would frame all of our certificates. And it was like the wall of glory for my father, the wall of fame. And heaven
Mhm,
forbid that you didn't make the wall. What I didn't realize was it was creating a lot of competition in my
mhm.
narcissistic family system, right?
Yep.
Because you're competing for the affection of the parent. You're competing to make sure that if I do all of this right, then maybe now I won't be in trouble. Maybe now
Oh,
I won't be hit. Maybe now I'll be given the opportunity to speak to mom, right? When she calls this weekend. Did you
oh,
have
wow.
a maybe now? If I do just this, then maybe now this won't happen to me?
Oh, so many things. A lot of me just I shrunk. I shrunk myself. And for him, my father was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict and very unpredictable. And for me, it was just, I need to stay quiet. And if I make a loud sound or startle him, it's my fault. And I deserve to get whatever I got at that point. So,
Wow.
and he had me believing that. And he was teaching me how to be a good girl.
I'm so sorry that you experienced that. I really am. It reminds me so much of my own experience. And I I did not have it easy. And when I was reading your story, I felt that I wasn't alone as a little girl. Um, but also, see, I'm getting emotional. I told you it was going to
Nope.
happen.
Nobody's alone when they're
Yeah, but
little.
it was and it's this common theme, right? All of us can connect to this of we were never alone and we felt at the time, at least I did, that this was only happening to me, that there was no one else in the world that was understanding this. And I remember like cursing out loud at one point of like, why me? Why do all these bad things happen to me? I'm good. I'm good. I want good things to happen. And I felt that struggle in your book, right? Of I know that I'm innately good, but yet these that so many memories were coming up for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't re-triggering, it was actually very healing.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yes, yes, it
That's
provided me this safe space.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's what I was hoping for people
Mm,
because it created that for myself. I created that for originally me. It became in my healing journey. Like I've been writing my whole life.
yeah.
I've been writing poetry. I've won awards for poetry and um I'll let this out too. I'm working on putting together an anthology. I've been going through all of my work since I was about 7 years old, and it's going to be a healing journey through poetry throughout the years. And there are some things that I had not read in a very long time, like a very strong one on dissociation. And I didn't know what it was back then.
Oh,
but,
wow. Wow. Right, we
but
didn't know. We just thought we were, like, daydreaming, right?
yep. And
Mhm.
I recognize so much now.
It's funny to go back and read the old versions of ourselves,
It really is.
right? And I've been going through a lot of my old things, and I found an old journal from the time that I was in high school, and I
Oh,
also
wow.
found what I was journaling when I was in my really abusive marriage, right? My second marriage, and it was by far the worst. And I couldn't help but think, wow, I was telling myself a story then,
Hmm.
and I didn't even know that that was the whole purpose. How did you start writing this book? What inspired
Oh,
you to sit
boy.
and write your story?
Oh, boy. So I had been working on it for a very long time. And like, I don't even know how many times I tried to start writing this because nothing ever felt right to me.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a very strange inspiration, I will tell you this. But I was listening to a memoir because I love listening to audiobooks.
Oh,
And
same, same.
when I was younger, I used to sit in front of a TV watching Full House and seeing these three amazing male father figures was something that I didn't understand. And
Yes.
it was wow. So I was actually listening to the memoir by John Stamos and um just how raw he was and just everything that he has gone through, and he's a survivor in his own right, honestly. If
Yeah, I have
there's
not
all
listened to it. I have not listened to his memoir.
and I honestly I love him as a person too because he has like a jewelry line that some of the proceeds go toward like child hope and things like that, and he's
How
very
beautiful.
proactive for children with like in hard situations. So he's an amazing person. But so yeah, he was one of my inspirations to like be like, all right, I think that maybe my journey can help other people because like his reopened that for me. And I was like, all right, so how can I write this? And I was actually at home with my mom going through old things and I found my night council again and because I hadn't brought them into my, like, adulthood. They had stayed home. Like, they went to college with me actually, but then they
Wow.
kinda stayed at home in a bin that
Box.
my mom
Mm.
put together for me. And I was like, "Oh, oh, you guys have been here through everything. You know everything." So, yeah, they were kind of like my childhood diaries before I knew how to write.
And they're still with you today.
They are.
They are very faithful, aren't they? They're great friends.
They are. They are constants, and they actually, part of something I've started is called the Jane Project, and I am putting it together on my author's webpage. And I'm asking other survivors if they want to kind of share their Janes and um, like what helped them get through, whether it was a song or a blanket or a book or different things to kind of show a survivor's web of resilience for people to look at. So if anybody wants to do that, please feel free to reach out to me because I would love to feature you guys on my website.
Oh, that is beautiful. Yes, I'm going to get all of the information. I'm going to have it in our show notes so that the listeners can contact you, have access to your webpage, and participate in this wonderful project. Who didn't want to have an Uncle Jesse in their lives, or
Oh,
Bob Saget as their dad? I wanted Bob Saget to be my father.
I know, right?
Right.
Like that just when that was out, like it was in I was like 5 or so when I started watching that, and I was completely just blown away because these men were so good to these girls. They were there, they showed up for them. Like, there's this one episode in particular that really stuck out to me when Stephanie's friend was getting abused and she didn't know what to do. So she went to Uncle Jesse and he stepped in and he made something happen. And I was like, people do that?
Right. People actually believe children. People actually
So
believe children. Wow.
it was
Mhm.
beautiful, like back then, because it kind of showed a new side for me and it gave me a little bit more hope to hold on.
Yes. Yeah. Hope is by far one of the words that has stuck with me throughout the years. And I don't have it with me. I usually have it on my desk, but my favorite coffee mug says hope. And I got it years and years ago, right? Leaving at the time I was leaving an abusive marriage. And the hope has kind of, faded over the years. I've had this for about 10 years now, but I didn't understand that I had always been so hopeful.
Mhm.
Even, as a child, I hated the weekends coming. School was my safe space.
Me
Um,
too.
okay, so you were the kid that was on Sundays. You're like, hurry up, I want Monday to get here. And you were excited and happy to go to school.
Oh, I loved going to school.
Uh-huh. That was my favorite time. I
Aside
hated summer.
aside from the bullies, there were some kids are mean.
They
They can
are.
be very mean.
They can be very mean. I was called all kinds of names. I was very thin. I was called a toothpick. Like, ah,
I was the poor girl.
really?
Yep.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, I'd get picked on for what I was wearing. People would recognize what I was wearing from donations. Like
Oh, that's terrible.
it, it was hard.
It was I was bullied. My stepmother did some really cruel things to me and my brothers, but she bought these old dresses from a yard sale. They were absolutely hideous. And I was in middle school in the 90s. And I'm talking like it looked like one of those floral curtains at your grandmother's house. She made me wear this
Oh
fucking
my.
dress
Oh
on
my.
picture day.
Oh.
And I
Well,
had to
you get
take
to
my
remember it
picture.
forever.
I do. I had to take my damn picture in that dress and walk around in the dress the rest of the day. And I remember I found like a pullover flannel thing or something, and I tied it over it. And then I started like putting clothes in my backpack, clothes that were mine that I actually liked that my mom had gotten me. And I would change when I got to school in the bathroom or the locker room and stuff the other clothes in and then change before I went home. And my stepmother found out that I was doing that. And I'll never forget, she took my backpack, she threw it away. She said I could never have a backpack again.
What?
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And I had to walk to school. So I had to walk over a mile to school carrying my books and my folders, everything,
With no
um,
backpack.
with no backpack. And I had some really nice friends that felt for me. And one of them gave me one of their old backpacks. We were in the 7th grade, right?
Oh.
And they all looked out for me. And I would like use the backpack during the day and I would walk home with it and I would hide it in the woods until one day my stepmother drove by and she saw me with the fucking backpack. She would drive by in her car to
Oh,
make
wow.
sure that we were walking, that we weren't getting rides from anyone, right? Like just really weird things. So it's shocking to me the amount of stuff that I lived through and I'm still standing, right? And it's made
Mhm.
me who I am today. I wish that upon no one.
Yeah,
But
me either.
right, right. Like the things that we've experienced, if anything else, I feel it has kind of looking at the light at the end of the tunnel, right? I like to provide that message and finding the light and always having hope. And I feel like the light at the end of the tunnel is as children, we became later empowered. We found our voice. We always figure out the truth.
Yep,
And we become the best versions of ourselves, determined to overcome the things that hurt us.
exactly. And for me, I turned all of that trauma into a purpose. I became a teacher and I made my first mandated report at 18 years old.
Wow.
And I continue to look out for children because it's easier for me to see signs than other people
Yes, because you've
because
lived it.
I've lived it and I have helped many children get out of home. So I feel like my pain came for a purpose, even if I don't wish it on anybody.
Hmm.
I lived it. I can help other children not.
Not to experience the same thing and get them out, right? As soon as we
Exactly.
can. Ah, you have such a beautiful soul and spirit to you.
Thank you.
And saving, looking out for children. Um, it really is touching to see the things that you're doing, the story that you've told and shared with all of us. And I can't wait for my audience to get a copy of your book
Oh,
and to share that. Like it's just amazing. I'm going to share it. I'm going to link it in my show notes.
oh,
I want
thank you.
everyone to read Because of Jane. If you have lived through this as a child or your child is experiencing, you know, back and forth and going to a high conflict parent's home and disclosing abuse to you, no matter how big or small, I think this story is really special for you to understand that your child is going to always find ways to survive, sometimes even if the family court system doesn't protect them. But they are resilient and they will be okay. They will survive.
They
There's
will.
always hope.
There is.
And that's the message that I want everybody to take out of this all.
And that's what I want them to take out of the book.
It's
There is hope.
beautiful. It really is. It really is. Thank you so much, Shannon, for being with me today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you so much for sharing your story with the world. It is a beautiful
Oh,
story.
thank you so much for having me and opening up these conversations because they are so important to have. And if it makes anybody feel less alone, like that's the point. People are not alone.
They're not. They're not. And if there's one thing that you could share with our listeners,
Mm.
what would you want them to leave this episode with?
Mm. That, again, you are not alone. And don't be ashamed of yourself for what you had to do to survive because it looks different for everybody. And what you did was for you, and you don't owe anybody an explanation for that. And be proud of yourself because you made it. You didn't have, like, you shouldn't have had to make it, but you did. And if you need help, there's help out there, there's hope, and you will find a way to be happy because
You will.
it's so important and just be there for others. Like listen and believe survivors.
Believe survivors. And we are living proof that you can turn your trauma, the bad things that have happened to us that it was not our fault, into
Mhm.
something good.
We can break the cycles.
We really can. Thank you so much, Shannon, for being with me.
Thank you so much, Bridget.
If today's episode resonated with you, make sure you share it with someone who needs it. You can find me on all platforms as Coach Bridget B, or at my website, breakingbadasscoaching.com. If you are ready to work more with me in a session, check out some of my guides, learn how to master your documentation, or join my exclusive community, you can do that through the link that'll be in the show notes. I want you to remember, you have survived this far. You've made it through this episode, and you continue to show up. You're going to continue to survive, and I will see you in the next episode.